rebels in the world, stand up. If you're a rebel on the grind, you don't care with your mind, hands up.
Welcome to the Brave Podcast. I'm your host, Connie Jacob, and this week I am going to give you some tools to help you motivate the people around you. I'm going to help you consider strategies that get them out of avoidance, get them past procrastination, get them connected to motivation, vision, moving forward. I'm going to give you some real cool tips today. I cannot wait. We cannot do these without connection. And I want to tell you a couple of stories of places that I was able to go to this week. It's been a really full, busy week, but a fulfilling week. Just getting out there and teaching people connection strategies on how to do these things. So the first one I want to share with you that I'm going to share some tips about is I was actually speaking at a university yesterday to university students. And I did my attune in process to help them know where they are. But when we do this collectively as a room, something very powerful happens. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But the first thing I had them do was I had them think about what is their resting emotional state. And then what we did was we wrote it down on the board. And I said, this isn't necessarily going to be your emotion, but something that you thought of. And so of course, they were like exhausted, stressed, overwhelmed, worried, all those emotions. One person said bubbly. I was like, yes, that's my person. Then we went into, what does that sound like as a sentence? And we wrote it down on the board. Okay, so that sounds like, I don't know if I am enough to do this. Do I have the skills to do this? Can I get my assignments in on time? All of these sentences that were revealing our thoughts, that subconscious part of us that's really dictating a lot of our behaviors. And so, of course, that is the next thing that we wrote down. What behaviors are coming out as a result? Well, guess what there was? Avoidance, isolation, procrastination. Once they saw it on the board, not only were they aware of themselves, when I asked them, like, how do you feel now that you've named it? We haven't solved anything, but how do you feel now that we've named it? One gal said, I feel so clear. I can see patterns that I've had for the last year. That's powerful. That's so powerful. And so what's beautiful is not only was it giving them individual clarity, but it connected the room. It connected the room. It allowed for them to realize I'm not alone in this. And as soon as it came out into the light in a well-designed place. So one of the things that I do is I always tell people, you are in the driver's seat of your experience. You never have to share anything that you don't want to share. And just by giving that disclaimer, people relax. Every time we think we have to be vulnerable in front of others and that everybody is going to expect that out of us, that becomes a scary place. That does not become a place of connection. That becomes a place of guardedness. And so just by saying that, whatever people were saying was out of their own free will. And it was beautiful. One of the things that I realize in my work over 25 years of belonging creates resilience is that we need to figure out, how do we connect the room better? September, if you haven't done this yet, it's not too late, but early fall is the time to create connection in your classroom, in your home, in your workplace, wherever you are. Your number one goal in the early fall needs to be, how do I connect people? How do I connect people? Because here's the thing, people do not dream for their life or for what their education can look like or what their workplace mission is. People do not dream if they're not connected. They actually isolate, and then they get worried, they get stressed, all those emotions start to take over. They have all those same thoughts, and the behaviors are always going to be isolation, procrastination, and withdrawing. And this is the problem that we're seeing out there right now. People are avoiding, and we're blaming it on anxiety. Anxiety is a byproduct of disconnection. And so connection now becomes our number one goal. So I want to give you some tips on how you can create that by what I did on Monday with a beautiful organization here in my city, the Calgary Immigrant Women Association. These women, the leaders, brought together 168 staff members. They decided to create a staff appreciation day. They brought me in to pour into the staff, to give them a great day, to give them some tools, but to also connect them. Now, here's what's interesting. I had a challenge because 168 people, they all come from different departments. They all work on different floors. They don't know each other. They're coming into a huge room, and my job is to connect them to themselves, to each other, and to the mission of the organization. No biggie, right? Well, let me tell you, I want to tell you exactly what I did, because by the end of the day, that room was electric with connection. And so you can connect large groups, you can connect small groups, you can connect people with these skills. And I'm going to walk you exactly through what I did so that maybe you could try this out too. So the number one thing that I did was I shared who I am. I shared a personal story. But before I even got on that stage, I walked around the room. I introduced myself to people. I looked people in the eye. This is something that we're missing in our world right now. We are so quick to, I just need to get up and I need to teach, or as a parent, I just need to tell you to get your shoes on. We need to get out the door. We don't really take time to look people in the eye right now and to say, I see you. Saying I see you does not need to be verbal. In fact, it's best nonverbal. It's looking people in the eye, saying, hello, how are you doing? And truly listening for that moment. That simple. So that's how I started my day. I've heard of teachers who stand at their door as kids walk in and greet them every morning. What a brilliant idea. I had one teacher, she put a hula hoop in the door and watched how kids would decide to enter the room through the hula hoop. What a great idea. Just allowing yourself to connect on a different level and thinking a little bit differently. So that's the first thing that I did. The second thing that I did was when I did get on the stage, or I'm sitting at the dinner table with my family, or I'm teaching in front of the class, or I'm leading a team meeting, I shared something about myself that wasn't crazy deep, but just allowed them to get to know me a little bit. I find that leaders, teachers, parents who share parts of themselves that's appropriate with the people around them, it opens everyone up. And so the question that I asked everyone to start was, what's a memorable moment in your life? And so I was sharing about my family and how a few years ago we had gone to Disney World, and my youngest son and I, we were on the roller coaster during the fireworks, because that's the best time to go. We're on this roller coaster and we turn the corner, and all of a sudden we have a front row VIP seat of these fireworks. And throughout the ride, it was beautiful. It was memorable. And it's often the small moments of our lives that are the most memorable if we choose to look at them. And so I just told that story. And then I said, I'd like you to turn to your tables and I'd love for you to share with one another a memorable moment. And that's what they did. We started pretty, not too deep. We started way up here. But the second question I asked them to share with one another was, what is a pivotal moment in your life, a defining moment in your life? And I shared one of mine, being a family that was struggling and being able to overcome that. Now, I didn't go into any detail because, again, I'm in the driver's seat of my experience too. I don't want to open myself too much to people who may not understand. But sharing that deep part of myself allowed for the room to begin to share a deeper part of themselves. And they started to share defining moments. And then what we did was we actually gave the microphone. We said, who would like to share with the whole room what you shared? And the one lady who shared, oh my goodness, she talked about how she came to Canada from India in 2020 and her family was going to follow her afterwards. But we all know what happened in 2020. So she didn't get to see her son or her husband for a few years. And so she told the defining, memorable moment of seeing them at the airport for the first time in 4 years and giving them a hug. I mean, that was just it. What I find that's remarkable is when I give people the opportunity to share, and I've set the stage of sharing in a certain way, vulnerably, but also meaningfully, and also not too deep, people will go there too. So think about that for a moment. Stories connect us. And what's the one thing we all don't think we have time for is stories. We gain empathy. When people heard her story, now all of a sudden they had so much empathy for her. They feel connected to her. There's times in school assemblies where I've had kids come up and share on the microphone, and the whole room, it's so funny. It's one person up there, but hearing from their peer, they feel connected. Think about that for a moment. How can you ask these meaningful questions, connecting them to each other, but then just getting one brave soul to share? What did you say? And it just connects everyone. Now, from there, we went into, what do you truly value? What do you care about? Now, the great thing is, and I want you to notice that these questions, what was a memorable moment? What was a defining moment? Now we're going to talk about values. They are all related. We are scaffolding the experience. So well-crafted questions that lead to where you want to take the room, that's crucial. So thinking about that. Now, I could have started the whole day by saying, now we're going to talk about values. What do you value? But I find that is such an empty conversation these days. People are void right now of hope. In fact, people aren't dreaming about how they can make their communities the best community it could possibly be. People aren't dreaming about how to create the best workplace to work at, or this is going to be the best class or the best school. People aren't dreaming because there's a void in connection. When we are not connected, people do not dream. I'm going to say that one more time because that's pretty important. When we are not connected, people don't dream. They're disconnected from themselves, they're disconnected from each other, and therefore they're disconnected from everything you're doing. This is why you focusing on intentional connection making is going to be crucial. It's going to ripple, it's going to pay off. So when I asked finally, what do you value? People were ready to share because those memorable moments and those defining moments helped them realize, oh, I know exactly what I value. And then we connected their values. I said, oh, look, like, what are your values? They shared it with each other. We had people share it in the room. And then I put up the organization's values and I said, wow, look at how aligned you are. You are in the right room. Sometimes people just need to be reminded that they're in the right room. Those students who feel like they're struggling, they just need to know, oh, actually, of all the weaknesses that I actually have a strength here. I belong in this room. How can you ask questions that get kids and students to understand, oh my goodness, I belong in this room? There's questions you can be asking. And I can't answer that for you. But I know that when we tap into that creative part of ourselves, those questions will come out. Now, what was really beautiful is that we went from values, we talked about the organization's values, and then all of a sudden now I was able to open up the whole room to learning connection strategies, which I have covered in these podcasts. I will continue to cover, but now their hearts were open. You see, we often want to pour information into people, but we have to understand that we don't connect through logic. We connect through emotion. We connect through story. We connect through experience. And it's what I notice we're missing in our world. And so my challenge to all of us listening today, whether you're a parent, whether you're a leader, whether you're a teacher, is how can you connect the room, through attuning to people, looking them in the eye, having that personal connection. How can you create that today? Number two, how can you share parts of yourself, stories, maybe as a teacher, If I was a teacher, I'd be sharing, some, hey guys, I was the one that was talking in the class a lot. And so I see you. I see the ones that are wanting to talk all the time. I know what it's like to have to be quiet for an hour. That's tough, and just tell funny stories too. My son's favorite teachers have always been the ones that have told stories. He feels connected to the room. And then number 3 is, how can you ask really powerful questions that get students, teammates, your children talking? How can you do that? But talking about deeper things, but how can you scaffold that experience? What's a safety question that could lead to a deeper question? People want to dream. Students want to be connected in their schools. Kids in their families want to feel a part of something, rootedness. Communities want to come together. But what disconnects us is when we ignore the opportunities to create this. And so I would love for you to be brave today to create this. If you ever want me to come and consult with your team, your school, I'd be happy to come and help you create this. But the important thing is take the time. I was so proud of this organization for taking an entire day to invest in their team, because those dividends are going to pay off more than they could possibly imagine. So friends, keep being brave to connect.
All the rebels in the world, stand up. If you're a rebel on the grind, you don't care with your mind, hands up. They can't stop us or hold us back. We that new rebel.